You know, you go in the cafeteria and his head's a foot above everybody when he's sitting at the table.
You see the guy on tape, you don't realize he's going to be that big.
Julius was a different breed.
I said, Julius, come here. I think it'd be in your best interest if you played football. He came to my office, he said, I'm gonna try it, Coach. I said, oh, hallelujah. Everybody we played knew who was gonna get the football, which makes it even more incredible that he did what he did.
Sometimes there's a 3-play guy, you watch him 3 plays and you know he's good enough. Sometimes there's a 5-play guy. Julius was a 1-play guy.
He's a once-in-a-lifetime type of athlete.
The lightness on his feet, the explosive jump, it's a freak of nature.
There's a chance that if he only played basketball, he would be an NBA player.
And I said, I've known for 10 years you're going to be a first ballot.
I was fully expecting him to try out for football when he got in the 9th grade, and when we had middle school meeting, he didn't show up. And I wasn't one to go out and beg folks to play if they didn't want to play. So his 9th grade year, he didn't play.
This is the first team that Julius played on for me in the 9th grade. And he's here in the middle at number 44. And you can see as an even in 9th grade, he's kind of a man among boys because some of these other kids you see are seniors. You know, obviously he was not going to be on the JV team in the 9th grade.
That spring, I got up with him at the track one day. He was doing the triple jump. And I said, man, how is he doing that? I mean, his feet are this long, and he's 6'4", and weighs 235 pounds or whatever. And I said, I need to talk to him. So after they got through with practice, I said, Julius, come here. I said, have you ever given any thought to playing football? And he said, I don't want to play football, I want to play basketball.
He's definitely one of the best players I've coached in my career, the best. People would just fill this gym to come see him play. On the court, he was just so blessed with athletic ability. I mean, you know, you got a kid just could get off the floor and rebound and, you know, dunk in front of crowds.
I said, well, that's great, and I think you can, but I think it'd be in your best interest if you played football. He kind of kicked the ground a little bit, and well, I kind of think about it.
One thing I always stressed to him was there are a lot of 6'6", 6'7" basketball players. I was like, with your size and gifts and movements, you know, you'd be a perfect defensive end. And you know, I was like, I know you may not see that, but it's something that you really should consider. You know, because I knew there weren't many people anywhere, you know, in the world that was like Julius. You know, he's just different.
I said, I tell you, Julius, I think if you were to take up football right now and do what your coaches tell you to do, keep your nose clean, stay in good physical shape, that one day you'll be in the Hall of Fame of National Football League. He said, well, I'll think about it.
I'll never forget his, I think his freshman year, his mom called and said some people had been talking to her and said that, you know, maybe Southern Nash wasn't the best place for him to get noticed. And, you know, and as soon as I got that call, I went straight to her and, you know, and I told her that, you know, if he stayed here, he, you know, with his athleticism and with his abilities and, you know, he's going to get a scholarship regardless of where he is. What's more important is what kind of man he's going to be. And, you know, I just thought we had developed enough of a relationship by that point that I thought this was the place for him. Just to make sure that he was headed in the right direction. That day I even told her, you know, I said, you know, he'll get a scholarship, he'll be a first-round draft pick, he'll be in the Hall of Fame if he does this, this, and this. And I truly believe that. I mean, he's just so different than any athlete I've ever been around.
When he came back and told me he was going to play, he wanted to know where I thought he'd be playing. I said, well, you can play anywhere you want to. Just tell me what you want to do. He said, well, I want to carry the football. I said, okay, you're a running back. Will you play defense? Yes, sir. Where you want to play, it don't matter, wherever you put me. came out, we started practice when he was a sophomore. He was going to be on the varsity, no doubt about that. And I was immediately taken by the fact that he was so fluid, coming out of the backfield, taking handoffs. I mean, he was there, he was easy to coach.
He played so much offense, he really didn't, you know, we didn't have to use him as much on defense. And when we did, you know, he would get double teamed, triple teamed, but you know, he was even different then, you know. But I mean, just learning and growing, and you know, it was obvious what he was capable of, the natural ability, you know, just and not even knowing the sport, you know. I mean, you know, just a baby at it. But you know, once again, when you look out there, he was totally different than everybody else.
I knew he was going to be a defensive end. Okay. Julius didn't know he was going to be a defensive end.
Coach Thompson got into the picture during his junior year, I think, and when he got recruiting real heavy and whatever. It was nothing for me to have 5 or 6 coaches sitting in the hallway in my office from colleges around this country, and I'm talking about Stanford, Pitt, Notre Dame, Florida State, Carolina.
My conversation when I came to Mac Brown was, I know what you're gonna say, okay, is darn it, where we gonna play this guy. Mac, I recruited Marcus Jones, I recruited Greg Ellis, I went down a list. He shook his head like that. And what he said, he opened his mouth and he said, he's better than all of them. And he said, he stopped at that. He said, sign him.
When I worked at Oklahoma for Coach Switzer, he said sometimes there's a 3-play guy, you watch him 3 plays and you know he's good enough. Sometimes there's a 5-play guy. Julius was a 1-play guy.
Julius saw himself as a skilled athlete because he could do whatever he wanted to do. When you wanted to get to point A, he could get to point A as a skilled athlete.
He's a wild guy. When you see him, you go, wow, and then you try to figure out where's he going to play in college because he's so big and he can run and he loved to play.
He didn't want to be a defensive end at that time.
It's well known that he's always wanted to be a UNC basketball player.
And there was absolutely no doubt he liked basketball better than football. Wasn't even close.
We were invited to the Carolina football camp after his junior year in high school. Donnie came down to the field and said, Coach Davis, grab Julius and come on with me. I said, okay, I got you. He said, where are we going? We're going to go meet with Coach Brown. We're talking back and forth, and finally Coach Brown told him he wanted to make him an offer. And Julius kind of hung his head. I said, Julius, you got anything you want to ask Coach Brown? He said, yes, sir. Can I play basketball too?
I knew his first love was Carolina basketball. Ain't no question about that.
He got on the phone. Well, it was called Dean Smith.
When we did find out that he was coming to school here to play football, it kind of opened our eyes a little bit.
He had no doubt that he could compete. I think that, you know, maybe the basketball team was a little behind on seeing what he was capable of.
His first love was Carolina basketball. If he had any opportunity to play Carolina basketball, it's over. You know what I mean?
You know, you grow up in this state, and it's not they don't gravitate towards college football. They gravitate generally towards college basketball. So as a young boy, I could imagine Julius playing pickup, you know, and imagining that he's James Worthy or Antoine Jameson or Vince Carter, Michael Jordan.
He knew he had to play one to get to the other. And then Phil Ford did a great job of talking to him about doing both and really helping him get to where he needed to be.
Julius was a different breed. I think Ronald Curry that we had here that played both was a different breed. They were extremely talented football players, but they possessed the skills to be very successful basketball players as well. And that's a unique blend of skills that people are blessed with.
He came to me, would you go ask Coach Brown to let me off to go and play? You know, they play in the old gym that they play in the summertime.
They had some pickup games. The building that we're sitting in right now, Woolen Gym, is where a lot of football players and basketball players used to get together and play.
And the guy in Hayward, that big 7-foot center they had, Julius Peppers, took that 7-foot center in the middle, and he jammed on him twice, over backwards now. They ain't never seen it before.
I just remember Ed seeing him play and coming and, you know, knocking on Coach Guthrie's door and, you know, going in the office and telling them, you know, we need to look at this guy. He could help us win basketball games. For him to impress Ed Cota, who's arguably the best, one of the greatest guards we've ever had, point guards we've ever had here, for him to be very impressed with a football player, he had to be doing something right that day.
Other than Ronald Curry, probably the best basketball football player that we've had in our school history, and he loved it. But he always knew he was playing basketball for fun. He was playing football for his future.
It was an unofficial visit, and I came to a spring game, and I just saw this massive figure, and he was just huge. He stood out so much. I was in the stands, and I'm just looking, I'm like, I want to come here. It made me want to be a Tar Heel.
And I was there, Julius, when Julius played, you knew even then they had to change the offense. They had to keep a back end. You couldn't find a tackle who was fast enough to get to the junction point and strong enough once they get there to not get blasted.
People were just trying to understand like how a guy of that stature can move the way that he moved. You know, we was just all trying to process it. You know, he ran with us. Like as a lineman, he ran with the defensive backs. And he would often, in our group, he would be what we call the strongest man. He would carry this large chain at the end of our run. We would pass that chain around, this big, huge chain. And Julius would be one of the two that would carry it to the finish line. He was just, you know, just an amazing individual.
We had this option play in the offense, and we were running it, and in my mindset, I'm like, I'm gonna take it to the house. Man, this guy, this is when everybody called him a freak of nature. He played both. He played the quarterback and me with his long, like, arm span. Like, he just had, his wingspan was so long, he just sat down and he got low, and he played both of us. And I'm like, and the quarterback didn't know what to do. And I'm over there like, pitch the ball, no, don't pitch it. Pitch the ball, don't pitch it, pitch the ball. Man, he played both of us, man. He made a play, like, you know, so, and I remember calling my father at the time. I was like, man, this guy the real deal.
Things about defensive end, most of the time you got to teach a first step. Because he's a track guy, you ain't have to teach a first step. Because he could come out of block with the best of it. So his first step was unbelievable. So he was 95% of that down the hill already.
There was a benefactor, a player that was on the team named Joey Evans. He benefited from offensive sliding to try to block Pep. I believe he had maybe 8 or 9 sacks that year, just because they had to get Pep. You know, that was the game plan. We've got to slide this line to get him. It didn't work, but they tried it.
They were saying, JB, you're not giving this, you're not giving that. You know, I'm looking, I'm like, damn, they expect this man to do some real things, like some huge things. Like, what are you supposed to do when 2 people coming at you? Like, but then, you know, it's all about standards, you know, but he figured it out, but man, different.
Peppers takes him down on a sack.
We always cheered for Carolina football that they would make a bowl game that took them close to January.
You know, full disclosure, you don't want them making a bowl game. I want them as soon as possible. But all of a sudden, you know, they're showing up to practice, and we went on a 18-game winning streak when they joined our team. That's no coincidence. Talent, you know, at the end of the day, it takes talent. I don't care how good a coach you are, you need talent. And Ronald Curry and Julius Peppers were so gifted.
He had really good players, so they actually looked at it as a challenge to play someone that unique. You didn't play anybody like him. You played him. He had great feet, you know, showed in his post moves. He was a runner. He could run, and he had great balance. So his maneuverability was exceptional. There's a chance that if he only played basketball, he would be an NBA player.
Julius was a basketball player who happened to play football. Julius could have played the NBA, in my opinion, if he focused full-time in basketball.
You know, he had charisma. He had a personality on the court where he loved to play and he loved to compete. And you not only saw it in his body movements, you saw it in his face and how he talked. You know, he gave energy. He was an energy giver, you know, not an energy taker. And so whenever he was on the court, you know, his team was better.
And energy's a gift. I was blessed to play with Michael Jordan. He brought great energy to the floor and the locker room every day. And for Julius to do that at 6'6", 275 pounds, that's a lot of energy. And so that cannot be overstated enough.
You don't want all the attention, but when it's time, when those lights come on, he will go out there and ball out.
I say, Julius, man, you know, at the 22nd pick, your bonus is a little over $1 million.
In a hurry, it came across to him that, you know, if he stayed another year, what exactly could happen. And it did.
Julius is thinking about coming out his sophomore year. And this is, you know, this is the last real long conversation that me and Julius and his mom really had. And it was about him staying in school. And I was talking to Julius about, you know, you're thinking about coming out. Mel Kiper right now don't even have you on the board yet. And then I went and I got the information that he needed from the Ravens. And Ravens had projected him the 22nd pick. And I said, Julius, man, you know, at the 22nd pick, you know, your bonus is a little over $1 million. I said, but Coach, he said, Coach, he said, I'm poor. I said, I know you poor, man. He said, but how long you been poor? He said, 18 years? I say, well, can you be poor 8 more months? He said, well, yeah, looking at it like that, I guess I can. And he said, he thought about it and he said, okay, well, he said, I guess I'll stay in.
He was maybe confused a little bit about the whole process of what would exactly happen, but I think in a hurry, it came across to him that, you know, if he stayed another year, what exactly could happen.
You don't want all the attention, but when it's time, when those lights come on, he will go out there and ball out, but he do it so effortlessly. And people, like, you know, kind of get it misconstrued, like he's not hustling, he's not this, he's not that, but he did it his way.
And I scheduled Texas because we were trying to get a better position in the BCS. So we were trying to upgrade our schedule. And then it was really stupid that I left to go for Texas and I had scheduled it. So I had all these guys I'd recruited that were on the other sideline. That was emotional. And I told our staff, 49's the best player I've ever seen. And you're gonna have to have 2 people blocking.
Either you're gonna be vocal with it or you're just gonna lead with your actions. And he was the type of person or a type of player that led with his actions. He was quiet, he didn't boast or brag, didn't want the attention all on himself. The attention somehow like found him.
Because of his humbleness, people were so excited for him, you know, because he didn't show any emotion. And so the people around him had to project that for him. And so it was, you know, guys were super excited, man, you know, when he was out there shining. You know, everybody was excited for him. He was always in awe of what he was doing, you know, because it was unique. It was something we hadn't seen, you know, whether it was on our team or any opposing team. We didn't see it.
I only got to coach him for a couple months, 3 months, 4 months. Actually, you know, there was debate, you know, does Julius and Ronald play basketball their senior years? Quite frankly, if they did, I might still be the coach at North Carolina. Julius, you're killing me, man. And they opted to prepare for the NFL draft. Makes total sense.
If I'm going to be the chef, I want to be able to shop for the ingredients.
Being a defensive guy, it was hard for me because you know, Julius Peppers, these guys don't come around very often.
As a player, you're just hoping that they draft somebody good.
With the second choice in the 2002 NFL Draft.
It's great for me. It's a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm kind of excited about being in Charlotte.
Well, when we took over, Jack Del Rio at the time became our defensive coordinator. I think we were 31st in the league the year before because there was only 31 teams then. So dead last. We had a lot of needs. We were coming off a 1-15 season, which actually earned us the first pick in the draft, but they had an expansion draft that year. The Houston Texans came in.
I joked with Julius because we spent a lot of time together when I took the Houston Texans job. And we were considering him for the #1 pick. You know, I thought he was a tremendous prospect. You know, I mean, such a good athlete and really a rare guy. And but the decision came down to starting a new franchise. We felt we needed to take a quarterback to start out. And being a defensive guy, it was hard for me because you know, Julius Peppers, these guys don't come around very often.
As a player, you're just hoping that they draft somebody good because you don't want to really suck again like we did, you know, going 1-15.
He's a very talented young man, a lot of God-given ability. And
I've always kind of tried to the feeling that Bill Parcells said a long time ago. If I'm going to be the chef, I want to be able to shop for the ingredients. So your personnel selection is so critical in success. You know, to give you an example, the head coach at the time with the Detroit Lions, you know, they took Joey Harrington and he was fired the next year.
When I first got hired here, it was the year he got out, and I was a defensive line coach. And so I was tasked with watching all the tape on him. You know, you have certain boxes you check, you know, does he do this, does he do that, height, weight, speed, run, this, that. The biggest thing with him was just to make sure the personality and everything that you want to go with there, because when you turn the tape on, I mean, you don't have to be a genius to see that one.
Well, what was fascinating about Julius is when we went to Chapel Hill for his pro day, you know, he was 6'6", 6'5", I don't remember exactly, but he weighed 295, but he still looked thin. And 295 is a big man. You can see his competitiveness, you can see the mental toughness.
He was so smooth and so fluid. You know, the knock on him came out, you know, he doesn't always play hard and all this, and I said, I don't see that.
But when he got right down to it, Julius was an easy pick for us. You know, there was guys, Quentin Jammer, a corner, Joey Harrington, a quarterback. We got beat up pretty good when we didn't take a quarterback. But yeah, Julius really, at the end of the day, was our consensus pick, and we just wanted to make sure Houston didn't take him, and we were able to get him.
Of course, I think 12 or 13 years later, you know, I got him at Green Bay, and I told him how excited I was. I said, we made a mistake back then not picking you with the first pick in the draft, and it was Carolina's good fortune to be able to pick him with the second pick.
The Carolina Panthers select Julius Peppers, defensive end from North Carolina.
Great for me. It's a great opportunity, you know, to stay home, stay close by my people, you know. So I'm looking forward to it. You know, I'm kind of excited about being in Charlotte.
I remember watching like North Carolina games and seeing him on TV, you know, intercepting the ball, running it back for touchdowns. So yeah, I was well aware of who he was before we drafted him here. Like, all right, we're gonna have some pass rush. I'm not gonna have to be in coverage as long.
He's the kind of player that can do that kind of stuff. He can take over games and he can be a presence out there. So, you know, we're real excited about Julius.
When he first came here, you know, we had some veterans with Brenston, Rucker, Chris Jenkins. Veterans will always check out a rookie. You know, what's this guy all about? They don't know him, but Julius, they took to him right away just because of how serious he was about the game, not only in his practice, but in his preparation.
You know what's funny is I was like a naturally kind of quiet person back then, and Julius, he was the same way. So I would say, like, between me and Julius, you may have had a couple words. Quiet guys sometimes are the most dangerous guys, and you know, I think that we all, you know, knew that our whole life is, you know, hey, they're quiet, but they're deadly.
Of course, it began when he came to the team, you know, through my husband, the latter end of Sam's career. You know, they talk about players that they're excited about. They don't talk about everybody, but you know, you can tell when they really think a player is going to be great.
Once John Fox came in here, I think Coach Fox, he just did such a good job coming in and establishing the culture and how he wanted things. And you know, he wanted a smart, tough, physical football team.
I got on to him pretty good because when I first got there, I remember my first team meeting, you know, I said, nobody's that bad. Nobody's 1-15. All right, the only way you become 1-15 is you give up or quit.
It's not like I'm going to come in and save the defense because they already got good players. It's just I'm just helping make it a little bit better.
I've been very, very impressed with what I've seen, and not even so much his athletic skills, but just the way he's gone about his business. He really wants to be good, and that's something any great football player I've ever been around has had.
Two things. He always practiced. The only time he ever took practice off was when he got a little bit older, and Mike McCarthy used to give him some senior days off, if you will. But he was a tremendous practice guy, practiced hard all the time, and even on sprints and stuff like that, the guy he'd lead the pack.
Sometimes coaches want to develop guys a little longer and, quote, make them earn it. Well, he started day one.
And I remember that first game here, it was against the Baltimore Ravens, and to end the game, he sacked the quarterback, the ball popped up in the air, I intercepted it, ended the game. So 2001 was just a terrible year. You know, so to go into that first game and to end the game that way with, I guess, two of your top draft picks basically ending the game, I'm sure the front office felt really good, you know, being in my position now. Okay, our guys are making plays, and we're going to be, you know, we're going to be a good team now.
I can still remember the day that they came to me and said, hey, we're thinking about signing Julius Peppers. And I said, that's a no-brainer.
We took Julius and put him at outside linebacker. Well, I think there were a lot of people that thought we were crazy.
I think Super Bowl year, you know, obviously we didn't know we were going to the Super Bowl, but I think in 2003, that was just a special group of guys.
We finished that first season, and Julius was a huge part of that. Not the only part, we had a lot of good players, but we ended up second in the league in defense. So that was a drastic turnaround on defense for sure.
When you have such a bad season, you never want that to happen again. And I think that's how we felt, you know, going 2002, 2003, is like, hey, we're not going back there. Like, we're moving forward, and the only way to do that is to work. And we're in a similar situation here is, hey, you got to put the work in, you got to pin your ears back, not do the talking, and, you know, just let your actions, you know, speak for themselves.
People always say, what's the one play that sets it apart from the rest? And I tell people, the interception in Denver. But what people don't mention is the play before.
Playing the Broncos at their place, and Jake Plummer, their quarterback, was athletic at that time in the league.
Jake Plummer went on a bootleg rollout, and Julius went down a little bit and got caught.
And kind of got fooled on the bootleg away or the action away, but he was so athletic that he was able to chase him down and really prevent the touchdown.
Tight end set, Smith the only receiver.
And then the next play is when he got that interception and ran it all the way to the 1 yard line.
Julius Peppers is going to go to the 5 and stumble.
And Rod Smith caught him, and I said, "Ooh, well, maybe he is human."
He's different from the moment that you see him, you know, physically. Just the way he looks, the way that his muscles are structured, how long his arms are, just the way he's built. Like, he's just built to be durable. He's built to be athletic. He's built to be fast. I didn't never see him stretch. He would run out there. He'd have his shoulder pads like not even buckled up. He didn't have his jersey on. He's running out there, and he'd go right into team situations. So, yeah, he was just a freak.
I haven't really had time to think about it, to be quite honest. Been focusing on the season. The next couple of days, I have, you know, a little more information about what I want to do and what I will do. Hopefully this will be the last time I have to answer these kind of things, you know. Hopefully it'll be resolved one way or the other.
Later on, when I had an opportunity to coach him at Green Bay, he'd been a defensive end for his whole career, basically. And we took Julius and put him at outside linebacker.
So he kind of dived into it. He hadn't really done a lot of stuff with, you know, cover 2 drops, cover 3 drops and stuff like that.
Well, I think there were a lot of people that thought we were crazy, that we had another good linebacker on the other side, Clay Matthews, and when we matched Julius up on the other side, we had a great duo because they couldn't just block one side or the other. And yeah, there's not many guys that could play defensive end their whole career, move to outside linebacker, and make the Pro Bowl as an outside linebacker. So it just tells you how much versatility that he had.
When we played Chicago, my rookie year in Chicago, and I went out on the field, and I remember walking past him and being like, oh my gosh, this guy's gigantic. You know, I was fortunate to have the opportunity to play with him.
And just as a young guy, I just want to learn from him. You know what I mean? I want to learn what he's thinking. I want to learn what he's doing.
When he got here, you saw what it meant to work like a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I remember when he came in the locker room for the first time, he was with Thomas, and Thomas had been talking to him that whole offseason and saying, hey, we're gonna get Pep, and I was like, yeah, right, whatever, I'm sure. And he walked into that locker room the first time, and it was awesome. I was so excited.
When he got drafted, I believe I was in first grade. Yeah, his rookie year, it was crazy.
I'm out of football like 5, 6, 7 years, and Julius is still playing, and I'm in the, you know, my 8th year of scouting.
I mean, I'm from the West Coast, so we ain't hear really about Julius Peppers on the West Coast. You know what I mean? So it's like when you get here, it's that's Julius Peppers? Oh, he's a monster.
You know, obviously, I think he was a 16-year, 17-year vet when I first got here, and just, you know, looking at how he worked, obviously wasn't getting all the practice reps the rest of us were, rightfully so.
Pep only practiced on Friday.
He was 6'6", 6'7", 290, 300 pounds when he played with us. And he'd run our conditioning stuff with us, the big, like the linebackers, and be hanging, not breathing hard, just like it was no big deal.
In OTAs, he's the first person I blocked. It was a real welcome to the NFL, I'd say that. The way he just walked me back right at the quarterback, and I was, goodness gracious. So this is what it means to be in the league. I got to get it together. I got to set my game up.
But Julius Peppers just was, He was like a created player. When you're growing up and you create a defensive end on Madden, you create 6'7", 300 pounds, 99 everything, athletic, long, just, he was just a different dude. And him and Cam were the two guys that were like, hey, who were two guys when you played with that were different than everybody else? Obviously Cam, but Pep was that guy.
Just the way he carried himself when he was here, that's what stuck with me. How he was a leader, how he came to work every day with his little briefcase. He'll wear his jeans with a little nice collared shirt, you know what I mean, just on a Wednesday. And, yeah, Pep, where you going? And that's what really stuck with me, is the way he carried himself more than his words.
But it was really good to see an older guy in that point of his career that had made it a name for himself. Obviously, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's won a ton of games. He's been on really good teams. He's made a ton of money. He could have gone anywhere he wanted, but he decided to come back to Carolina, where he started, and just to see his love for the game was, I think, something that was really cool.
I still don't understand how he got in that Porsche, though.
I don't know how you measure his impact on youngsters as a role model.
I just wanted to honor Julius, to have this be his moment, to welcome him into that family, the Hall of Fame family.
It's really a blessing to be a teacher and a coach and have players to coach like him. I wish everyone was like Julius.
I think the one thing that I loved about Pep, he was just a great dude. He was fun to be around. He loved being around the guys. I think he just loved being a part of the team and loved the game of football. I tell people, he smiled all the time. And to see him after a sack with that dark visor and all he saw was that big smile, that was super cool.
He really would care about people. He ain't no phony, some people, put airs on. He really cared about people. He cared about his family.
He was good with people, good with kids. It was so damn easy to like Julius Peppers. And as a result of that, his impact, I don't know how you measure his impact on youngsters.
I think you judge a person by his heart and not what he says, because your heart, that's what controls your actions. You're going to do what your heart feels. And when you look at the things that he's done in his life and his career and how he's handled himself, he has a great heart.
And that's the part I think I like the most, for fans to see that other side if they haven't seen that of you. So much of you was talked about. I just wanted to honor Julius, to have this be his moment, to welcome him into that family, the Hall of Fame family.
He makes the folks around here, not just me, but everybody around here is really proud that he was a part of Southern Nash County. I don't know. You could ask him, but he won't tell you. He never wants to be the center of attention. He figures by keeping his mouth shut, they're supposed to leave him alone.
He called me about a month ago, and we talked for about an hour. And at the conclusion, I said, Julius, this might be the longest conversation I've ever had with you. Well, in that hour conversation that we had, and I understand that coming from him, especially how humble he is, he wasn't sure. And I said, I've known for 10 years you're going to be a first ballot. There's certain guys that, they're automatics. And, in my opinion, Julius Peppers was one of those.
He's just a great guy, great human being, great husband, great dad. And, I think that's who you really aspire to be. And I would want my son to kind of be like him.
In 2016, my wife and son was in a really bad car accident. And Julius played on a Thursday night. He flew into Raleigh the next day, drove 2.5 hours, 3 hours to Wilmington, stayed for 2 hours, went back and drove back. That's the kind of person Julius Peppers is. He's a whole lot more than a Hall of Fame football player. He's somebody that, that I would die for. And, and that's not just words. He's meant a lot to me and my family, and I'm so thankful to be a small part of what he's accomplished, and look forward to seeing him put on that gold jacket.